What would happen if you mixed the courtroom drama and investigations of the Ace Attorney Phoenix Wright with the style of the Yakuza games? The answer to that is in the title, Judgment. I recently sunk in about 58 hours into the game, so now it's time to share my thoughts about it. Starting with the basic setup, in Judgment you play as Takayuki Yagami, an attorney turned private investigator in the city of Kamurocho. You live in a small one-room apartment which is also your office, as should any good private eye, and take on cases as small as dealing with the Yakuza crime world or as big and demanding, such as finding somebody's lost cat. Also, Yagami is behind on his rent, as should any good PI. Being another title by the Ryuga Gotoku studio, the game has a similar gameplay loop to the Yakuza games. By the way, Ryuga Gotoku in Japanese means like a dragon, which has always been the title of what we know in the West as Yakuza. Cool, right? In Judgment, you explore a hub world, the fictional city called Kamurocho, which is a few blocks big. The map is not massively big as a true, huge open world such as a Rockstar game, but still packed with detailed visual flair and plenty of activities. For example, you can have a girl from Kansai head to your place to give you a massage, play darts, get shit-faced in many pubs, try to pull some home runs at the batting center, or lose your yens while gambling. Among the side activities, I can point out Yagami's dating life. You get to hook up with 4 girls you meet throughout the game, with who you will have to engage in conversation via text messages, set up dates, bring them gifts to try and please them, and fret over trying to look cool and saying the right things during the date. So just like real life. Oh, and once you get into her good graces and she actually becomes your girlfriend, you can stop trying so hard and start seducing the next one. See? Just like real life. One of the hooks of the game is something called Friend Event. These involve the different people you meet during the adventure and their little side quests. You can befriend the many employees from businesses around town or occasionally bump into a total stranger in the street and find a way to help them out. As you interact and help them, you fill up a friendship bar, which, once full, increases your city reputation level, and this can be helpful in some situations. Let's say you're fighting some punks in front of a store. If the clerk is your friend, they can toss you something to help during the fight. Additionally, there are the official side cases where you can put your detective skills to the test. These are about taking on cases from clients with the most varied requests. The side cases are a joy to play. In them, you'll meet the quirkiest characters in Kamurocho and the silliest requests. You've got cases such as the Twisted Trio, a group of pervy characters comprised of a panties professor, Ass Ketchum, and Judge Creep and Peep, who go around harassing a lady. There's a man who lost his jacket and wants Yagami to get it back, as if this was some sort of get-backing service. Another one with a flying wig that has you running all over the city to get it, and even an apartment haunted by a ghost. You can investigate scenes in the first-person mode and move a radical to find clues or a person of interest. At times, you'll have to tail somebody, something that always reminded me of a tail mission in Metal Gear Solid 4. Other times, you're not tailing, but rather chasing somebody. I'm actually very fond of this mechanic because I love running animations and mechanics in video games, and the funny thing is that Yagami is a smoker but can sprint like freaking Usain Bolt. At times you'll have to reveal evidence in those choose your response moments, other times confront characters, which is something reminiscent of the Ace Attorney games. And the fact that the main character is an attorney carries out investigations and confronts people with evidence like Phoenix Wright didn't go unnoticed by the devs, because at some point in the game they make a clear reference to Ace Attorney, having the character Hoshino pointing his finger and yelling, "Objection." Objection! That's all well and good, the court drama and the investigations, but if you like to beat people up in the streets and also want to do that in a video game, Judgment has got you covered. In Judgment you have 2 fighting styles, the Crane with the blue aura that is mostly about using kicks to deal with multiple enemies, and the Tiger style with the red aura that is suitable for 1v1 fights and features the most powerful attacks. That's the basic setup, but you can mix things up like using the Tiger style to multiple enemies, which works just as well because you can easily change directions with the analog stick. Another mechanic that makes the game extremely fun are the EX actions, which are special attacks with unique animations depending on fighting style used, environment, weapon the player is using, or enemy position. The EX moves are as cinematic and flashy as they come, and I suggest any player to try and unlock as many as possible because they are just so fun. You may find the game a bit sluggish and heavy on a few actions, such as when switching combat styles or having Yagami start running. Another thing to notice is that the game is quite easy. I decided to crank it up to hard mode, but I still was pummeling most enemies as if this was Dynasty Warriors sometimes. You can still die in the game, of course, when enemies start popping shots or unleash an attack that quickly burns through your health bar. So it's more about paying attention to your health bar than dealing with extremely difficult opponents. What I'm trying to say is, you probably won't die a lot in the game and most battles will be fairly easy provided you don't mess it up. This is just how the game works and it's not necessarily a criticism. I can roll with that as well. I like some games that give me a good technical challenge, such as a Devil May Cry or a fighting game. But I also enjoy one that just allows me to pull off some flashy moves while I make my enemies add some pavement to their diet. Now let me explore the plot. Beware of spoilers and please jump ahead to the timestamp to avoid them. Attorney Takayuki Yagami of the Genda Law Offices decides to take on the duty of defending Shinpei Okubo, accused of murdering a patient with dementia at the hospital he worked at. Against all odds, Yagami gets the not guilty verdict, only for Okubo to be released and murder his girlfriend, Emi Terasawa, who also worked at the hospital. On one side, we have Okubo, a convicted and waiting on the death row. On the other, Yagami, a man who, haunted by the thought of acquitting a murderer, leaves his job as a lawyer behind and becomes a private eye in Kamurocho. Yagami, who has ties to the Yakuza, begins investigating a series of murders throughout the city where Yakuza members were killed and their eyes gouged out. This becomes the main investigation in the first portion of the game, taking the player through the underbelly of Kamurocho crime world, even taking Yagami close to his attorney days when he works on the defense of Hamura, who was the main suspect of the killings. Throughout his investigation, Yagami nicknames the serial killer as the Mole, which catches on, and that's how he will be referred to in the rest of the game. As the plot progresses, it is found that the Mole and the murders in the city are but the tip of this grim iceberg. When his former co-worker, his senpai, Shintani, turns up dead, killed by the Mole, Yagami starts investigating hard to get to the bottom of it and bring the responsibles to justice. That leads him to find connections with something called the AD9, a miraculous drug that could potentially be the cure to Alzheimer's disease, and the ADDC, where it is being developed. What does a drug being developed for Alzheimer have in connection to Shintani's murder and countless others in Kamurocho? That is the 1 million yen question that will take Yagami and his partners in the craziest twists and turns throughout the game. It turns out that different powers wanted the area where the Advanced Drug Development Center was located. It was originally built to be a place where politicians could retire to, but also fudge! Alright, let's go. But also where the bigwig of a Yakuza family had invested billions. To some, the 89 drug being developed there was merely a hindrance to the real estate development, and to others, it was the drug that could cure Alzheimer and change history. But not all is noble in the development of that drug, because the AD9 created a web of darkness involving the Yakuza, the police, the ADDC, and the Ministry of Health. Through investigations and a lot of fisticuffs, it is found that Shono, the main brain behind the drug, was actually doing illegal tests on live subjects, meaning he had the Mole kidnap Yakuza members so he could run tests of the drug on them, something that would eventually cause their deaths. Not only that, but Shono's evil doings go back to Shinpei Okubo. Okubo didn't kill his girlfriend, nor the senior citizen with dementia at the beginning of the game. It was all Shono. And here's something I truly appreciate in the narrative. Here we come to the ticking clock plot device. It's a narrative device we all know, but in this case it's not a literal countdown of course, but rather the life of an innocent man who is on death row, and he desperately needs Yagami's help. As for Yagami, he has to run to gather evidence for the trial that will determine not only Okubo's fate, but so many other characters. After many thrills, sick-looking fights, and even a moment where the game gets Resident Evil'd when characters raid an underground lab, the day of the trial arrives and Takayuki Yagami put his lawyer/detective skills to the test, while unveiling the whole truth about the Mole, 89, and most importantly, finally freeing Okubo, who has been an innocent man since the beginning. And okay, back to the no-spoiler discussion. This is a very summarized version of the main plot of the game, but for everyone who plays Judgment, there will be a lot more to discover. Many backstories and subplots in this awesome title by Ryuga Gotoku. After beating the game the first time, you get to jump back in with a newly unlocked premium adventure, where you get to enjoy the game in a more relaxed fashion, by being able to freely change time of day, deal with having 4 girlfriends, and help the acquaintances you make in Kamurocho. Oh, and let us not forget, being able to take on more side cases. One aspect I like about Judgment, and by extension the Yakuza games, is that they deal with some dark plots and they may feature some realistic aspects, graphics and all that, but never forgetting the anime levels of over-the-topness that sets it apart from other games. These games are as Japanese as they can be, and that is 100% a compliment. And that's about it. I have played Judgment, so there's my review. Thanks.